What's up, Jack Capella and Cycle Drag? You like my new shirt. Anyway, thanks for having me on Cycle Drag. And man, talking about the ZRX, you want to know some stories? I got some stories about the ZRX because what a lot of you don't know, and it's really good seeing ROB MUZZY on here talking about his memories of the ZRX. But I go back to the ZRX from when I flew to California to have a meeting with the director of the motorcycle division back then, who was John Hoover. God bless him, rest his soul. John Hoover invited me to California to ride up to Laguna Seca. Now, here's a kid from New Jersey that I ride, but I don't ride. So from Irvine to Laguna Seca to Monterey Beach is, he said, well, we're going to take 3 days. It's going to take us 3 days to get there. Not because it's that far, that it's 3 days worth of riding far, but because we were going to go up with the new ZRX, the new Kawasaki ZX9, two ZX9s. Me and Mark Homchek, we would ride the ZX9s, and John would ride the first and only. So when I flew to California, I got to see the world's only Kawasaki ZRX. John Hoover, who was the director of the motorcycle division, he was very influential when it came to certain motorcycles, and the ZRX was one of them. He actually designed the ZRX from the Eddie Lawson model. So when I saw it for the first time in Irvine, he told me to go out and go ride it. So I went out and rode the bike, and wow, was I impressed. The ZRX was real nimble for what it was. It was fast. It had a lot of torque. It was a ZRX 1100. And this was back in 1999, I believe it was, because it was the year before the ZRX actually came out. Matter of fact, there was none in the country. This was a pre-production prototype that John had designed himself. They built it, and John was going to ride it to get an impression on how it rides, and basically he just taking it for his first ride. So I rode it around in Irvine and was blown away at how nimble it was, how quick it was and fast. So we got on the highway. So when he told me it was going to take us a couple days to get there because we was going to take all back roads, no highways. So if anybody knows in Southern California that if we take A1A, that's all along the coast, and then we took all mountain roads. God, that was the greatest ride. Even to the day, that was the greatest ride ever. We started out at 5 o'clock in the morning from John Hoover's house. Me, Mark Homchek, who I believe was the director of sales at the time, not sure, and the director of the motorcycle division, which was John Hoover. We started out in Irvine at his house early in the morning. And of course, I'm not prepared for the weather, so it was nice. You know, I'm thinking it's going to be warm the whole way. They say, no, we riding in riding suits and earplugs. First time ever I had wore earplugs. They wear earplugs because all the wind buffering noise, they say, affects your hearing. So we got on the road and we would ride for 4 or 5 hours, stop in the mountains at a restaurant in the mountains and eat lunch. And then we would get back on the road and ride to about 4 or 5 o'clock, and then stop at a bed and breakfast or a hotel, spend the night, start out at 5 o'clock in the morning again, and ride all back roads all the way up to Monterey. Now, the interesting part was, remember, this is the only ZRX in captivity at the time. Me and Mark Homchek started little competition stuff on these twisty roads. And all of a sudden we lost John. And when we went back to see where John was, whew, we saw a skid mark in the road. We turned around and on a steep curve, which I knew exactly what curve, if something happened, I knew exactly what curve it was going to be. So when we returned around and went back down the hill, we saw this long black skid mark that went straight when the curve turned. And then when we got to the other side of it, we saw John Hoover on the ground evaluating the damage that had just been done to the world's only ZRX at the time. So of course, I'm making sure John's okay. He was all right. We got back. He continued to ride it. We pieced it together, rode it all the way to Laguna Seca, and he put the bike up because he didn't want nobody to see it. And we went down to Bubba Gump Shrimp down in Monterey Beach, me and John by the water. And we met up with Doug Myers, and we had a good time. The rest of the weekend was great. So that was my first experience with the ZRX. Wasn't pleasantful because John had just destroyed the first and only ZRX in the country. So, but it was his bike, and he was the head guy at Kawasaki, so it wasn't as big a deal as if I would have trashed it. So anyway, so then we went from that to, we started our Kawasaki team, so that was in 1990. I want to say that was in 1999. Yeah. It's either 98 or 99, but I think it was 99. Because shortly after that, John Hoover had the brainstorm that we would turn a ZRX into a race bike. So he called Rob Muzzy up and asked Rob Muzzy what he thought our chances was of building a pro street ZRX. And of course, Rob Muzzy and his wizardry, he built a Pro Street Nitrous ZRX, and in 2001, no, before that, this was 2000, we started the team. So this was, yeah, this was 2000, so directly after we came back. So in 2000, we ran the ZRX in Pro Street, and we struggled and struggled and struggled as a nitrous bike because there was no race, remember, this is a one-off bike, there was no race parts available at the time. So Rob Muzzy developed everything for that motorcycle, down to the shocks and everything. Awesome piece. The way he looked, the bike was killer. It caught so much attention in the Pro Street class. But did we kick ass? Nah. Did we embarrass ourselves? Nah, we didn't embarrass ourselves because it was the only one. No one knew what to expect, neither did we. And then we ended up going in nitrous configuration. I think we ended up going like a 813 at Rockingham one year, which it blown us away. I think that was the same time that Brock broke into the sevens. I think it was the same weekend Brock was the first pro street bike to street bike shootout at the time, street bike shootout, that broke into the sevens. And I think we went 819, I think it was, or 813. Either way, that was that. So the following year, Rob Muzzy, matter of fact, in the middle of the year, Rob Muzzy shows up at the racetrack with a turbocharger on it and says, now try that. And we did. Of course, we went through a lot of teething pains with the turbo, but we ended up going in the sevens with the turbo the following year, right as we brought out the ZX12 Pro Street. So when we brought out the ZX12 Pro Street, as we were developing it, we were still running my 750 turbo in the superbike class and the ZRX in the Pro Street class, in the street bike shootout class. Eventually, we would go 786 in testing, not at a race. And then Ryan Schnitz started riding that bike as I jumped on the ZX12 turbo. So, again, a lot of memory with the Z. Matter of fact, my greatest memory of the ZRX is when I used to go to South Africa. I set the world record in South Africa with the ZX12 nitrous. And we decided to take the USA Kawasaki team, which was the Highlands Kawasaki team led by Jeff Peck, Brian, Gilbert Coronado, and Troy. All of us, we went over to South Africa representing the United States. We took 2 ZRX turbos over there, one that they built, that Highlands team built, and then the Muzzy bike that Highlands team bought after we came out with the ZX12. And then we took some ZX12s, and a ZX11 turbo over there. So we had some artillery. We went over to the racetrack, and the whole Highlands team, I think Gilbert rode the ZRX, one of the ZRXs. I rode the other ZRX. Troy rode the ZX12. Brian rode the ZX11 turbo. And anyway, I went over there and kicked ass with the ZRX, won the race, set the track record. With the I set the track record with the ZX12. I did with the ZX12 turbo that they built over in South Africa. But anyway, we had a great race, great team showing, and I guess that's basically it. The ZRX is one of my favorite motorcycles, although it's kind of heavy. It's too heavy for what we need it to be. But it was really impressive. Rob had built a plenum for it. He put a turbo on it. He changed the shocks. He ended up going to a monoshock system on that setup on there, and the bike was just fun to ride, and we got a lot of attention. So anyway, just wanted to say all that. I probably talked too much. That was probably a lot more than what you wanted, Jack, but you asked, and you shall receive. All right, so anyway, it's Rickey Gadson reporting for Cycle Drag Magazine. Cycle Drag is not a magazine, Jack. It's his internet. Cycle Drag Online. And Rickey Gadson, see ya.